Welcome back, book babes. So I'm like almost like a little sad and emotional. It's the final episode for Happiness Project. After this, like it's wrapped up. We're at a wrap, guys. Oh
We're
my
moving
God.
on to juicier things after this, right? So, Happiness Project, of course, her focus, Gretchen Ruben did an amazing job really breaking down 12 different things that she could implement in her life, things that she could focus on 1 month at a time to really create change in her life without changing her life. And I think that's the most powerful, right? She didn't do it because she needed to solve any major problem. She didn't need to do it because she was unhappy or depressed. She simply did it because she wanted to see if she can improve her life, even just a little bit. And I think that right there, that's mind-blowing. Like, can we improve our life just by simply tackling certain topics? And she covered 12 things. And I really loved how she broke it down. I loved how each month was a different focus, because then she could give it 30 days to see the change in that specific topic. Does that make sense?
Definitely. And I agree 100%. Her, just the way that she is so tactical about like what she does, she makes it so like it's a blueprint if you wanted to follow it, but it's easy enough where let's say something didn't, you were like, oh, that's not really something I feel like would bring me happiness. You can insert whatever you're feeling would bring you the happiness and start your own happiness projects at any point. And the other thing I loved about this is the fact that this isn't a new book. This is like the 10th anniversary edition, which has been updated, which tells me that this is timeless in
Yep.
the fact that I there's nothing in the book that would give you the clue that this was written over a decade ago. It is very inapt information that doesn't go away with time. And I love that aspect of it also. And then something else is obviously it's good information for years and years because this is your second time reading it. So
Absolutely.
I definitely want to hear a little bit. I know we've talked throughout this entire podcast of things that you kind of took away the first time, but I'm interested to hear what you think you're going to take away the second time going into this next 4 or so years.
So I think my takeaways from the second time is definitely the intentionality in a friend, right? Like how I'm showing up for those relationships. I want to continue to grow, different acquaintances, people that I interact with. And I think this is really powerful for me because I do have a really big team in my business. I work with people on the daily, clients, customers, coaches. And so it's very important for me to have a personable relationship, to be the best version of me so I can show up better for them. And really kind of the gut check of, well, you can't just live your life and like forget everyone else and not even take a second thought about them, because it's not going to get you what you want, right? Like my whole goal is to help people. And so I really have to put intentions behind that. And then, of course, the having fun aspect. It's not something I've ever really been good about, but she has kind of two separate chapters which focus on like, um, let me see, lighten up, be serious about play, make time for friends, buy some happiness. I feel like they all four kind of just seamlessly go together in the same aspect of the attitude, right? Like it all bases around like, hey, I know life's happening, but it's okay to slow down, it's okay to breathe, it's okay to do something that brings you joy. And so that's really what I'm taking away this second time is to make sure I'm focusing on those relationships and being a good version of a human and being a good version of a friend, and then making sure I'm slowing down and taking time for fun for me, to get really serious about making that a priority.
I love that. Love it, love it. Like I said, I love that you've read this twice, which tells like definitely our listeners and anyone watching that this is something that you can go through and time again and read it and find that is your life changes, and as you grow and as you're in different seasons of your life, that you're going to read this in different ways and be able to
Mm-hmm.
take different things out of it. And it's just funny because even you and I listening, I totally love what you said, but I took away different chapters.
Yep.
I definitely feel like I went more towards the marriage chapter was the hardest for me, but the one that I know was the most impactful, the one that I took the most tactical tips from,
Mhm.
the one that I know I'll go back and read. And I've explaining this, it's almost like if you ever like thought about like marriage counseling,
Yep.
just read this one chapter because I think that she covers such key parts that could save you thousands of dollars to
Yep.
not have to go to marriage therapy for it. And at least it would be a starting point. And then that, and then leading into parenting, it's the same thing. I love how she just really is transparent in the fact that she wasn't showing up as the best wife or the best mom that she could. And these were the ways that she did. And she is very, heartfelt in saying it took a lot. I definitely had to really work on these. I had to work on my patience. I had to work on my quick nagging. And those were things as a wife and mom who is notorious for losing her crap on our kids sometimes and nagging her husband to death. It was both reassuring and kind of a wake up call to be like, oh, hey, you know, this is, what you're doing and this is what you can do better. And so those were two of the chapters that I definitely took away.
I
And
love that you
then,
pointed out the marriage one for sure, because reading this the first time, hands down, that was the most transformative chapter for me. And even like now, like I didn't realize it was as transformative as it was, but the second time reading through, I'm like, oh, that's where I learned that. Oh, that's where I learned that. Oh my goodness, that's where I learned that. Like I'm such a better wife because of this book, and I didn't even realize it. By simply applying the things, the tips, the ideas that she shares into my marriage to be a better wife.
mhm. And then I think my other favorite chapter was off like strangely March, which was aim higher and work. And I think it was because it was kind of when you strip away the layers of which make me me or you strip away the wife, you strip away the mom, you strip those kind of expectations, the friend, and you sit there and focus on you. I think that this one spoke to just Hannah, like not the
Mhm.
wife Hannah, not the mom Hannah, but just Hannah. And wait, and just reminding myself of, enjoy the fun of failure. I get goosebumps when I think of that one because how great is it to have permission to suck for a while,
Yep.
to be messy, to explore. And she talks just about like asking for help and enjoying the now. And I just love everything about that because that speaks to kind of the season where I'm at, where I feel like, she talks in the same chapter about how between 20 and 40 is when you really start asking yourself these harder questions and start wondering where your life is directionally going.
Yeah.
And I resonated with that so much. And I think that there's so many good things in this chapter that remind you that you are a person too. And this is how like you keep fueling that fire inside.
100%. I love that. I think
Do you
I
have a
love,
chapter that you just didn't feel like
go ahead.
I was saying, do you have a chapter that you feel like you would replace in your 12-month happiness project?
I think for me, the one that didn't necessarily speak to me was probably the money chapter. Like I love that money is a focus. I think it is so necessary for every human being, especially if that's never been a focus or of intention to you. But for me, just where I'm at in my life, I I didn't need, like I didn't take away as much as I did in the others. And that's simply because, like again, I said before when we did the chapter breakdown, I'm pretty confident in this. I have lots of amazing tips and things that I use. I went through an entire financial piece like seminar, like I did all the things. And so her tips were great, but at the same time, for someone, maybe for new people or not new people, maybe it's just me because I am very confident in my finances at this place. I didn't feel like they were as life changing as some of her other tips that she shared. Like she has great tips and advice and super tactical things in lots of chapters, and that one I felt like it fell short. What
I
about you?
love
What
that.
did you have a chapter that you kind of was like, I don't know about this?
It was kind of November's for me, which is keep a contented heart and your attitude. And I think it's because of my line of work, because I work very hands-on with customer service and stuff like that, I think I'm more apt to see kind of like the negative side of people. So I try to be still polar opposite. I am the person that will strike a conversation with the cashier at the gas station or a checkout person at Walmart. I love like talking to strangers or being really polite. I love going and telling people about awesome experiences I have. I'm a big review person. I love giving good reviews. And so when I read this, it was like nice because it was reassuring of something that I could read and be like, oh, I do that. Hey, that's true. But it was something that I don't feel like I highlighted a whole lot. And kind of with you, is it tactical and is it very helpful if that's something where if you feel like you're always in a negative mindset and you feel like you go out in public and you just want to snap on everybody and you just hate being out and you're just the negative Nancy of the group, then you're probably going to read November with a way different outlook than
Yeah.
I do. Same with the money. I took a lot of tangible tips, but because I'm not as confident in money.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that that's really important for everyone to hear too, is that there's going to be things in your life that you have a little more under wraps or that you've went through that season already.
Yep.
And so instead of maybe being complacent there, how can you maybe challenge yourself in a different way, or how can you keep growing in that way too?
I love that. I totally love that. I think the thing that I love the most about all of this, we touched on a little bit in the last chapter review that we did, but I love how when we think that we have to change our life, we think it has to be something huge and big and crazy. But at the end of the day, it's the little steps, it's the little things that we do that make the biggest difference. And it just goes to show, like, in every category, right? Like, for boosting our energy, yeah, she had tons of tips and things to do, but it was just the little simple things. The same with marriage, the little simple things, and so on and so forth for every single chapter. And if we would stop focusing on everything we have to fix and just pick a few little things and start changing those and be consistent with them and really create a habit around them, that's when you're going to feel the difference. It's not because, I mean, she didn't go through these 12 months, like she didn't go through month one and then just give up boosting her energy. She continued it for the rest of the year. She didn't just go through February and gave up caring about her husband. She did it all year long. So what she was doing was creating habits around those baby steps, which in the end created this totally different person at the end of the year. And I would beg to say that she did not stop at December 31st. She kept going because some of these became so ingrained in who she was because she decided to make a change. And I think that's really, really powerful.
I 100% agree. And that was one of the things that I loved also, is just, it doesn't stop here. She didn't just crawl back in a home. Like I said, she didn't just stop showing up for her kids. She didn't just start going back to yelling at her husband. The idea would probably be that she continued with the habits that she found, blessed her. Did she probably take any more drawing classes? Probably not. But she does still have her blog and she does still have her podcast. So she does still share all of these things because she continued on from this book. And I love that also she just kind of caps that everyone's happiness project is going to look different. And it could be, maybe you're, like she said, already was a pretty happy person, but she just didn't feel that that was it. She felt that there could be more. But maybe you're really on the other side and you're absolutely depressed and you're just looking for anything to help and clinging to something. There is still those little baby steps, and it's not going to change overnight, and it's not going to be that instant gratification. But like I said, it's in those little baby steps, that consistency that can either pull you and make you happier than what you were, or maybe not even happier, but more appreciative of the happiness that you have, or can truly gain that happiness and get that ball moving and gain that confidence and get you to the point where you're like, wow, I have so much happiness to be appreciative of. And I think that this book kind of encompasses wherever that looks like for you.
100%. And I think that right there, that's powerful, because it does, no matter where you are in your life journey, in your life lessons, and what what you know and what you don't know, you can always find something that will speak to you, and you can really shape it to where you're at in your seasons. And I think that's beautiful. So Hannah, my question for you is, is there one or possibly more things that you've already started taking from this book and really implementing into your life?
I do. You want, and well, if you're on YouTube or you're with me right now, you're gonna laugh, but I'm gonna show. I did my nagging list.
Nice.
Of those nagging B tasks, which is 4 pages long.
You knew it was
but
going
I've been
to
talking
be too.
We did, and I was surprised because I had been talking in our Book Babes Facebook calls that I thought that it was going to be 10 plus pages of things that I just constantly was telling myself. But the reality of it is, when you write it down, it's amazing how many different ways your brain can say the same thing. And I think that when I finally started writing these down, I realized that that's what it was. I think my brain just has been telling myself these things in so many different ways, and different ways that you hear it in your brain, that you think that it's 4 things, but it's really just that one.
Yep.
And that was something that she had talked about in January, is just getting all of those little nagging tasks, those things that you just kind of keep pushing off. She has the analogy of those little bees that are like circling around your head, and they kind of dive bomb at you and go, hey, that doctor's appointment, hey, that cleaning project. And you kind of just swat them away to get that like instant relief. And I had been telling myself, I relate to that. I should really write down that list. And I finally did. And it was probably like a week ago that I said I was going to. And I finally wrote it down. And what I realized is that now that I have that list, it's really easy to just sit and be like, I have 30 minutes right now. I could easily knock out underneath the bathroom cupboard and cross that off and not have to think about it again.
Yep.
And so in real time, that is something that is the tactical tip that I have taken away and am adamantly working with.
I love that. Totally love it. So the real question is, are you going to do a 12-month happiness project for yourself?
I don't know if I'm going to do like a laid out happiness project. I think that I know that there will maybe be months that I'm going to be like, this month I could really use the concentration on. And maybe that month I'm like, I'm really not feeling like I'm showing up in my marriage. Maybe I really need a month where I just focus on my marriage. Maybe there's going to be a month where I'm going to look at Jimmy and be like, you know what? I think that you and I could really work on our finances this month and really kind of take that money. But I don't know if I'm going to sit down and actually do a 12-month plan.
Yeah, same. I think that's me too.
What about you?
I think for me, I love exactly kind of how you said, like, I will have seasons of focus where I focus on certain things. And that's definitely something I've learned along the way, is you can't always focus on the same thing, because you're going to find this huge imbalance, right? We can do it all, but we cannot do it all at once. And so it's really kind of prioritizing. So what I'm doing is taking some of the different topics that she has, and I'm making my priority list, like what matters to me most, what do I want to focus on in the year ahead, and then really kind of try and balance out, which I hate using the word balance, but I don't know a better word, because there's no perfect balance. There's nowhere close to balance, but I want to keep my priority, like I want to keep juggling the glass balls, the ones that really freaking matter. And I don't want to drop those. I want to be able to prioritize them so that I can show up the best way possible for each of those hot topics, like my kids, fun, my finances, my husband. Those are like my marriage. Those are really important to me. And so that's kind of how I'm doing it this year. Like you said, just focusing a little at a time when it's necessary, when I can, to show up better.
And I think with that is just giving yourself the time to audit not only your time, but like, what are those glass balls? I love that analogy. That is beautiful, because you're right. You're not going to balance it all, but in the juggling act of what you have going, which ones do you not want to fall to the wayside? Which ones can maybe go down for a little bit without needing your constant care and attention? Which ones can't last that?
Yep.
And I love that you spoke to that, because I think that it's important to, like you said, just audit what needs your focus, and are those areas of your focus, are you being intentional? Are you really taking the time? And if you're not, what are some tactical things that you could do going forward?
When I truly think that people overthink the basics of it, right? Like we set this, oh, I really need to fix XYZ. And there's not really the need to fix, but instead, if you could ask, like, how can I improve? Like, how? If you ask yourself how, and you really create an action plan, it doesn't have to be big and elaborate or anything. But for example, how can I lose weight? Stop going out to eat, right? Like that's one thing, but it's an action that you can do that's going to help you lose the weight. Stop drinking soda. One thing, it's just simply one thing that's going to help you get there. Pick an action that's going to help you get to that goal, and it's going to make it way easier.
And then build on that. I think that if, like I said, if your overall goal is to, like I said, if we're using this example of losing weight, break it down. You're not going to want to do all the things at once. There was a reason that she had the 12th month be the month that she was focusing on everything and not the first month, because you want to take those little steps and build on it. If you're wanting to lose weight for 1 week, 30 days, you give up soda, and then you see where that gets you. And then you're like, wow, giving up soda really felt good. Now I'm going to give up that candy bar. And then you go through and you're giving up soda, which is already a habit. And now you're building on that. And once you keep building on that, like, wow, I feel a lot better. I'm going to start like cutting out those fake foods, like Gretchen says, or like processed foods. And then you start feeling even better. You're like, wow, I'm going to take walks. So then you start building on that. And then next thing you know, you're down to the healthier version of yourself. You're consistently showing up. You build that confidence in yourself, and you didn't overwhelm yourself right from the get-go, leading to you not feeling good enough, you feeling like you're failing, and you giving up. And I think that that's even like when you want to do the idea of breaking down your 12 months, it's just keeping those little focuses at a time and then going forward with there.
I love it.
I love it too. And I love that we're done. I'm sad that we're done, but I'm excited because now we get to go into our next season, our January books, which is going to be Think Like a Monk by Jay Shetty. So on the next episode, we'll be jumping into the getting started of that.
I'm so excited. And if you want to join us, Book Babes, in our exclusive Facebook private group where we really dive in and we talk about each chapter as we read, and we have our bi-weekly meetings where we just get to see each other and chat together, then don't hesitate. The link is in the description. You can just simply join there. All you need is the book, and then we can read together and grow together, which is the best part.
Absolutely. And we have been so thrilled to have you guys through this journey, through Happiness Project, and super looking forward to joining you guys for the next one. Check you guys later, Book Babes.